What is up, guys? Welcome to the top 10 Arrowverse Moment of the Week, Week 20 or Episode 20, whatever you want to call it. This week was actually really great, probably one of the best episodes or weeks of the year or the season for the Arrowverse. It was really great. First, you had Legends of Tomorrow Season 3, Episode 17, titled Guest Starring John Noble, which was a 10 out of 10 episode. It was so good, and it was probably the best episode of the season. Then you had Black Lightning Season 1, Episode 11, titled Black Jesus, the Book of Crucifixion, which again was also a really great episode. And then Arrow Season 6, Episode 17, titled Brothers in Arms, which in my opinion was a pretty good episode, a really good episode actually. With that in mind, let's go over the top 10 Arrowverse Moments of the Week, Episode 20. Number 10 is Diggle leaves the team on Arrow. This is on the list mainly because I thought it was really well built up throughout the episode. Every fight scene they had, or the one fight scene they had and the one argument they had, really fermented the fact that Diggle really wants to leave the team at this point, and then he did, and it made sense for the story, made sense for the character. It was a pretty heartfelt moment for the characters, and it made Oliver be alone on when he goes out to missions, which might be cool. I don't know, it might be cool seeing just Oliver by himself in a fight scene. We haven't seen much of it actually, so thinking about it, it probably will be pretty cool seeing him by himself. So Diggle leaving the team is, I feel, pretty fitting at this point, and I feel like they're doing this just to make the main villain more threatening, but also it really made sense within the episode and within the characters' arc throughout the episode, so that is why it's on the list. Number 9 is Jefferson Pierce reuniting with his family on Black Lightning. This episode is all about Jefferson being framed for having green light in his car and then being arrested for that, and that's actually a moment on this list later on the list, which I will explain why then. But this moment here of how the episode ended, of him being proven innocent and then going home and being released and going home, which led to a pretty emotional moment between Jefferson and his family, as well as when Gamby came around and he and Jefferson put their differences aside and became friends again, or like, not really friends, he's really his father kind of, but like, that was a nice moment as well. This whole scene was a really emotional and nice moment to see, and then them eating pizza together. I really like this scene for those reasons. Number 8 is the reveal that Ava is actually the 12th Ava on Legends of Tomorrow. Ava's storyline of being a clone from the future, although it sounds like a really cool idea, it wasn't really executed well, especially in the previous episode. It wasn't all that interesting, but this episode actually made it interesting, with Ava being revealed to be the 12th Ava who is recruited by Rip, making the storyline at least a little bit more interesting than it was in the previous episode, which is kind of weird because that episode, Ava, episode 16, was the episode that was supposed to explore the storyline into depth, and maybe that's the reason it was a little annoying that time, because they really focused on it. And this episode is more of a side plot, so it worked better. Maybe that's why, or maybe this revelation that she is actually the 12th Ava is just so much more interesting than anything they've ever done before, like in the previous episode with her storyline. That's why I like this moment. It's because it makes the storyline interesting, and it served for a pretty well acted and emotional moment between the two characters, Rip and Ava, and it was the first time I actually felt anything for the character, for Ava. I felt kind of bad for her, honestly, and it made me feel like interested in the character for the first time this season. So because of all that, it lands at number 8 on the list. Number 7 is Lightning uses a hologram to prove that Jefferson or her father isn't Black Lightning on Black Lightning. This moment was just a really clever way to prove that Jefferson isn't Black Lightning. The hologram technology might be a little far-fetched, like it's really advanced technology that they just got on a whim out of nowhere, and the way they set it up, like it felt like they did that, like they planned the whole thing in 2 minutes, when it looks like it had a lot of planning to do, especially with that self-driving car. But you look all past that, it was just a really clever way to prove that he isn't Black Lightning. It was a really cool scene, seeing Black Lightning and Lightning running together and all those people in the background cheering them on. It was just a really cool scene for that reason. Number 6 is Damien Darhk's conversation with Sarah on Legends of Tomorrow. This moment is on the list only because it was just a really well-acted moment, or not only because, but mainly because it was really well-acted by both actors, by Neil McDonough, the guy who plays Damien Darhk, and Katie Lotz, who plays Sarah Lance. Mainly Neil McDonough, because you see in this scene the arc he's been going through since the start of the season. In Arrow Season 4, he was a really ruthless guy who just wanted to end the world and that's it, and then rebuild it. And then in Legends of Tomorrow Season 1, he was and 2, he was a little bit more of that, but less serious. And this season, he started out being just as serious as he was in Season 4, but then you see his arc going over the entire season. Just he doesn't really, he more and more slowly and slowly getting closer to his daughter and less caring about Mullis's return and just caring about his daughter. And you really see that in this scene. Like he said, he was pouring his heart out to somebody who's imagined his death 10,000 times over. So you really like get that sense from the scene. You see his arc ending, like finishing here, which is why I think he should definitely die in the next episode, because that would be really fitting for the character. Number 5 was Oliver and Diggle's fight on Arrow. This scene was preceded by Oliver and Diggle's argument on Arrow, which you better believe is later on this list. But this fight scene, even though it wasn't as good as the argument itself, was a pretty good scene, just because these two characters actually punching each other, like, even though it wasn't the most well choreographed fight scene, and it was a little far-fetched how Diggle even put up a fight against Oliver, just looking past that, it was just a really emotional scene because each punch meant a lot. That's why the lack of choreography didn't really matter that much, because it makes sense. First of all, it makes sense that they were holding back, and second of all, they didn't need to have choreography. It's just them punching each other. Every punch meant so much more than it usually does against the normal goons or even a main villain. Most of the main villains, maybe except for like the more personal ones, like Prometheus and Slade. But here, with Oliver and Diggle's fight scene, every single punch meant a lot more than usual, so it didn't need to be choreographed well. It didn't need to make that much sense, because maybe Oliver was holding back, maybe both of them were holding back, but the fight scene just was really, really intense and emotional, because every single punch mattered so much. Number 4 is Ray and Damien trick Nora with John Noble's voice on Legends of Tomorrow. This was really the whole concept of the title of the episode, titled guest starring John Noble. The whole reason he was on the episode was because of this one scene where Ray and Damien trick Nora with his voice, because he sounds like Mullis, which is a really cool meta joke and a little bit breaking the fourth wall, just because John Noble voices Mullis, and then John Noble, the actor, showed up in this episode on the set of Lord of the Rings, or one of them, I don't really know which one. But this scene right here with Ray and Damien tricking Nora was a really funny scene. Neil McDonough's acting in this scene was really, really great, because he was acting like somebody who didn't know how to act. Like, Damien was like, "What? Mullis said that? Who? What? Me?" It was so funny because of that, because his acting was so off. Like, not the actor, obviously, the character's acting was so terrible that it was hilarious. And then also just them tricking Nora with John Noble's voice was a great meta joke, which is why this scene is a scene that I actually really love, so it's on the list. Number 3 is Jefferson Pierce gets arrested on Black Lightning. The only reason this moment is on the list and so high is because this moment did just a great, amazing job at making you hate the dirty cops who arrested Jefferson. Like, when he was being arrested, when he was being framed for having green light in his car, and these cops were just going and arresting because they were paid off by the ASA, who wanted to prove that Jefferson was Black Lightning, or wanted to be proved to them. But that's the reason they were doing this, because they were being paid off, which is really dirty, obviously. And then they were arresting him. It just did an amazing job at making you hate these dirty cops. I was like, God, these guys are assholes. I wanted them to really get punched in the face. Like Jefferson, his eyes glowed blue. I wanted him to just shoot them with lightning, because it made me feel like these guys were such assholes, which is what the scene was trying to do. So I gotta commend them for doing that, because I didn't expect to really feel like these guys were such assholes, but this scene did a great job of that, which is why it's so high on the list at number 3. Number 2 is Oliver and Diggle's argument on Arrow. I did say that this number, or this moment, is on the list, and here it is at number 2. The only reason it's not number 1, because usually with these top 10 moments of the list videos, these types of moments are almost always a number 1 moment. You look back on old videos, you can see that a lot of them are the number 1 moment, but it isn't this week, because the number 1 moment is just a moment that I could not put at number 1. It's just that this week was so good that it had 2 moments that deserved to be number 1, but number 1 obviously had a slight advantage, just because I don't really know why. I'll talk about that later, right after this one. But Oliver and Diggle's argument was amazing. The acting from both actors was great, except for the one moment from David Ramsey, which was a little cheesy. I don't really remember which moment. I just remember thinking that was a little cheesy, but the rest of it was just so great from Stephen Amell and Diggle. David Ramsey, them just screaming at each other is a thing I like. Two actors, actors on Arrow, like Stephen Amell especially, is at his best when he's screaming at somebody. Like in season 4 when he was screaming at Quentin, or in season 5 when he was screaming at Adrian Chase when he was being tortured. He is at his best when he is screaming for some reason, and in this scene you really see that as well. He's screaming at Diggle, and it's just great. It's really intense and personal and emotional because of it, and that's why it's on the list. It's just one of those moments that I really like. You look back at all my top 10 moments on the list, and a lot of the number ones are really well acted scenes from actors who are just having an argument or screaming at each other. Like the one I remember is on The Flash, when Ralph Dibny was and Barry Allen were having this argument, and it was an amazing, well-acted scene, and this scene is just as good. Maybe not as good, but it's still really good, which is why it's number 2 on the list, and it really deserves number 1 on this list if number 1 wasn't there as well. And number 1 on this list is Mullis's true form revealed on Legends of Tomorrow. This moment probably should have happened a little earlier in the season, just because we're only getting this episode, and that was like a minute or 2 minutes, and then the next episode, the season finale, to see him. But either way, I thought that this episode built up his reveal so well, because we saw his shadow early on in the episode, like 5 minutes in the episode. I'm like, whoa, is that really what he looks like? And then the rest of the episode was just like, felt like it was more build up to this moment, to this epic moment, and then it happened, and it paid off so well, because Mullis's reveal was awesome. You see all the legends just standing there in awe, along with Damien Dark, and I think Nora Dark was dead at that point, which I guess she's dead. I don't really know, but you have all the legends of Damien Dark just standing there in awe at Mullis's reveal, and it was just awesome. Mullis himself looks great. He looks menacing. He looks threatening. He looks like really well made CGI. Like, I didn't expect him to look like that. He obviously looks like a demon, but for some reason I didn't expect him to be that large or have that large wings, or I think he has horns and a tail. I'm not really sure, but I think he looks awesome, and I'm hoping that the next episode we see a fight scene between him and the legends, and hopefully the CGI isn't terrible, because it might be, just because the show has a small budget. But going off this episode, it doesn't seem like it will be, because Mullis looks amazing, which is why that moment lands at number 1 on the list. But anyway, that is my list. Let me know what your list is in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want better notifications for my videos, or you just want to vote on my daily polls, my daily Arrowverse related polls on Twitter, follow me there. Link is in the description. Or you could just look me up at the blackest line, because at the black line was taken. And if you don't have Twitter, or if you don't have Twitter, you can just click the notification icon for better notifications for my videos, because YouTube doesn't seem to be working lately in the last couple months. So just click that, and as always, thanks for watching.